Good afternoon. What's going on there, guys? It is the Earthmaster here on this Thursday, April 28th, 2022 date. It's about 12:12 p.m. California time. Latest quake shows a 2.0 earthquake into the area of California, it looks like, right there on the Earthquake 3D globe, as well as some further movement out in the West Texas area. So let's go ahead and jump right into it, looking at the latest map here from the USGS. And also, I'm going to answer a couple questions here that was asked in a few of my comments, a few of the comments that I've seen on previous videos. We're going to go ahead and check out West Texas first, where we've seen quite a bit of earthquake activity here over the last week or so. Most of it, though, within the past couple days, seen a pretty significant swarm of movement around the Pecos, Texas area. About 38 earthquakes or so. The largest in this cluster, let's go ahead and see if we can get some of these microquakes to go away. Looks to be, looks like we had a 4.1, which just occurred a short time ago there in the Minotone, Texas area. That's going to be this earthquake right here in this cluster. Right, see that little separate cluster of it's by itself. I've seen quite a few threes and some another four back there yesterday. So this whole area right here is in the Delaware basin area. It's an area of major gas and oil field operations, kind of stretch up here into New Mexico as well. It's see if I can show it up here on the map. This might be a little bit better view. Of course, you got the Texas-New Mexico state line, this area that we're looking at here in the blue. Kind of see that right there, right in this area. So the Delaware Basin area, I pulled up quite a few articles on the production of the operations of the gas and oil fields out there, and how they've been linked to the massive amounts of earthquakes. Just want to go back here last 30 days or so and check out the all magnitudes. We did see a significant pause for a couple days, so that could be contributed to the lack of increased pressure around the North American plate. Even though this area, right, is far away from a major plate boundary, you got to remember these continents here are still always under stress from the plate tectonics in general. 153 earthquakes within the last 30 days. That's kind of a minimal number compared to what we have seen in past months. Like I said, we did have a couple days there of very limited earthquake activity, but it appears to be really ramping up here to the east with these fours and the upper threes kicking off here in kind of a little separate swarm. So I got a hold of someone from the University of Texas at Austin, in Austin, Texas, over there. And this gentleman, Alexandros, runs the Texnet, which is the Texas Seismological Network. I'll spit it out. Here we go. Better known as Texnet. They got their pretty cool website listed here, and he actually sent a link to a pretty cool map that does show some different features. But I'm glad that he wrote me back. He was pretty quick. Looks like they will be updating this map in the near future to include some further data. So the only thing I'm not seeing, though, and I kind of looked this over, I am not seeing any specific fault systems on here. Kind of went over all these legends and whatnot, but I didn't see anything with the a dynamic of setting a specific fault out here, so I'll get off of that. But anyway, you can kind of go back and view the activity over the years and whatnot. Doesn't look like 2022 is on here, at least on this one. It goes up to looks like the end of November. But then again, they said they will be providing some newer activity onto the maps here. Kind of gives you a little overview here of all the basins out in Texas and all the earthquake activity. And I think these older operations here, the gas and oil well operations, are going to be active for quite a while in terms of seismic activity. And with these newer ones, of course, got a lot of newer operations throughout Texas and Oklahoma and Kansas. They're getting in on some of the activity as well, but I think we're really going to see those start ramping up as the months and years move on. There's quite a few articles in term about the activity and the implications for oil and gas operations here. There's numerous articles. I was reading over all of these here. I'm going to include a couple of these links here in the update video in the description below if you guys want to read about it and how it's been an ongoing issue, as far as earthquake activity goes. Lots of valuable info in here, but we're not going to make this an hour-long video. But there's studies, and there's no doubt that the wastewater, right, the wastewater injection does create that the earthquake activity down there. So, all right, I was just reading that off here. I was going to see if I could pinpoint a couple things here, but I think I'm going to include those links in the description below so you guys can check that out for yourself. It's pretty cool to read. If you got a few minutes, maybe it might take half an hour or so, because there's quite a bit of info in that in those two articles there. So, getting back to today's activity, definitely out there in the gas and oil fields. And there's many of them throughout the region. These earthquakes are kind of amplifying a little bit, getting a little bit stronger here. I think we did see some 4.5s here a couple months back in this region. So it looks like we're headed towards that activity again. And you can expect Oklahoma to get in on the activity as well, possibly Kansas, as the the general pressure up here along the North American plate is almost continuous, and we do start to see it kind of like a wave pattern. It seems as though it goes from west to east here in this region. When the west coast is fairly active, which it has been over the last 24 hours, we start to see that further movement inland in these weak areas that have been added to the features of the lands now, thanks to the gas and oil field operations. So let's go ahead and check out the west coast here while we're on it. We got one earthquake here north of Fresno. Friant? I've never heard of that town. Okay. Of course, I don't live down there south. Looks like a very shallow earthquake, 2.0 at less than 1 kilometer up against the foothills, it looks like, prior to Mammoth Lakes, which is way up here around the Long Valley supervolcano. Some movement up and down the creeping section of the San Andreas Fault. And also little activity, a little swarm of movement there south of Avenal, northwest of Lost Hills, getting in on a couple small earthquakes, including a 3.0. Some of this activity, though, pretty deep. I can't remember if the Great Valley Thrust Fault runs along this area as well. I know it does up here in the northern part of Sacramento Valley. But that's some deeper movement taking place here on this west side of the San Joaquin Valley, with one of those earthquakes down there at 14 kilometers, almost 15 kilometer deep earthquake activity. This is going to be on the eastern side of the plate boundary, which is the North American side over here. Further down south, looks like we're starting to fill in with some cluster of swarming going on north of Ridgecrest. Kind of close to the Coso volcanic range. Seeing this little swarm of activity here. Looking like quite a few ones and some twos mixed in there in a little clutter. Also down here along the fracture zone of the 2019 earthquakes, a little bit of activity as well. Some aftershock sequences. Some movement down here around the Willer Ridge, I believe that is, or close to it, just off of it. Looks like a couple small earthquakes near the Grapevine area, mountainous areas. Of course, there is some fault systems that run through here. Major ones, such as the San Andreas Fault and also the Garlock Fault Zone there in that region. South into the southern part of the state. Looks like not quite as active as up north, although we are seeing a little bit of trail of movement here. Look at this Look at this trail of activity here across this mountain range. Now most of these fault systems here run northwest to southeast, right? You can kind of see that. Shear fault systems do exist, such as the Garlock fault zone up here, which runs kind of east to west, west to east, in that somewhat type of fashion. But you can almost see here this mountain range here indicating this earthquake activity that's stretching across in a line. And I'm not seeing a USGS mention anything about a specific fault system down here that runs in that direction. You can almost kind of draw a line right here, like there should be another fault system throughout there. Let me see if I can pull up the our other fault map. Stand by for just a second here. See if we can pinpoint that a little bit. On this map from the USGS, sometimes these guys don't show all the active fault systems on their on the USGS map on the other one, on the other page. So we're sitting down here. Let's see exactly where we're at. I got Salton Sea here around the San Jacinto Mountains, right across the San Jacinto fault zone here. Looks like that would be within this area. You can kind of see it here on the map as well. But yeah, these guys are not. There's one down here near the Borrego Springs area. Looks like a little west to east fault. See, that should be down here. But we're looking at this area, this line of activity that's, you can kind of almost see like the uplift of the topography of the land right here, indicating some type of fault system. But it's not there. Looks like they might have a little portion of it over here. See what this one is. This San Felipe fault zone. But it doesn't cover this area that I'm kind of watching there for that line of earthquake activity. So we'll look into that maybe a little bit later, but still a neat little feature there across the land in that type of fashion. Okay, what else we got here? Up north of Washington and Oregon, some movement outside of Mount Rainier and the Mount St. Helens area. Getting in on a little bit of microquake activity here. Let's go ahead and check out the tremor map from yesterday, which showed zip zero, nada happening there at the Cascadia subduction zone. Mount St. Helens movement. I did see some earthquakes last night. Of course, we checked that out on our update video last night, and looks like these guys are reporting one negative earthquake here today. It's going to be this red circle, but there's definitely a lot more. We definitely seen a lot more earthquake activity on the map than what's being shown here. And someone asked me if the USGS is the only agency I use for reporting data. No, definitely not. We report, for example, on the Earthquake Live 3D stream on the globe. We run the EMSC data and the USGS in combination together. Therefore, we can monitor, the activity that the USGS may not be reporting, and so on. We also look at the EMSC models as well when it comes to looking at these smaller quakes, which sometimes the USGS does not report internationally. Looking at the latest seismograph station here at Mount St. Helens, definitely some earthquake activity kicking up here once again in this area of the state of Washington. Earthquakes are defined in these little fractures, these little quick little spikes, I guess is the best word. This right here, I don't believe so. It looks kind of like either a distant earthquake or some type of interference. But localized earthquake, unless that's a long distance earthquake somewhere away from this station. But localized seismic activity will show up as well-defined spikes on the graph. And that's what we got here. We got a pretty good handful of them throughout the morning, it looks like. And over the last couple hours as well. So let's check out the previous day. I think we checked that out last night. See how the lines here on the seismograph kind of shrink? That's a little adjustment there on the seismograph itself, and it tends to, when you amplify it, it tends to bring out the these smaller quakes in a lot more detail. And the squiggly line, these, if you've ever seen a seismograph needle, you can see that it kind of goes back and forth a little bit. And that's what these little lines are. And looks like they have this amplified possibly to be monitoring the ongoing activity that we're seeing here at Mount St. Helens, which is definitely quite a bit here. I don't see any major magma movement, any type of harmonic tremor. These are S waves from the 6-pointer that struck in the Pacific earlier this morning. I don't think we've checked that out yet. It's going to be this one down here around the Papua New Guinea region. That's the 6-pointer that struck pretty shallow 10-kilometer depth there at 1321 UTC time. So those S waves, no doubt, make their way across the Earth and around the globe. 1321, roughly about here. It does take some time for those S waves to travel, so that's what we're seeing there on that seismograph, which is pretty cool. Get these long wavy lines of vibrational frequency through the Earth, and that's exactly what it is. So definitely some movement kicking up here at Mount St. Helens. Very small though, very small earthquakes for now. So 6.0 did kick off this morning in the area of Papua New Guinea. Looks like that's about the only larger quake here in the area of the West Pacific. Did see some movement around here, Port Vila area, Vanuatu region. A couple 4s kicking off overnight. New Zealand area looks pretty quiet, at least on the USGS map. For them, I do utilize the GeoNet servers. We don't just stick to USGS. We do like to kind of mix it up here on this channel. So just kind of answering a couple of the questions that I've seen here, going back through the past couple videos, asking if I only use the USGS. And so no, I don't only utilize them. So at least according to the week and above activity, I'm not going to go to all and including deleted ones, but it looks like a couple 2s possibly yesterday and the day before, but no major movement, no major swarming to take note of currently there in the New Zealand area. There's a couple different agencies. There's agencies all over the place to monitor seismic activity. So we try to mix them in the best we can and utilize the most accurate ones. I know USGS is late. Sometimes they upgrade, sometimes they downgrade. But in terms of maneuvering and monitoring the activity and the accuracy, for the most part, the accuracy, once they do review it, it holds pretty strong for the USGS. Some movement out here along the Aleutian Trench, including a 4.5. This one's super deep into the subduction zone right here. That's a Pacific plate and the North American plate boundary. We got this major player and some high accumulated stress rates here. I think it's between 60 and 80 mm per year. And it's been a while since we've seen a large earthquake in two areas here along the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench and the Aleutian Trench. I know we had some movement over here a little bit further to the east along the same subduction zone, but I got to watch these two areas here that I've been seeing some deeper movement with no subsequent shallower, larger building up, so to speak, of the pressure in that region. Alaska, got one earthquake here in the area of the subduction zone here as well. This one's pretty deep, 83 kilometers for 5.2, and some further activity up through the Alaska range, up around Anchorage and including Fairbanks. Hawaii looks pretty quiet again today. We're only seeing 11 earthquakes being recorded. It's the all magnitudes map as well. There's not a whole lot of significant changes going on at the Big Island. Just a couple microquakes there in their normal locations. Let's see what else we got. Did we check out Yellowstone? Yellowstone's an area to watch as well in terms of swarming and increased pressure out here along the North American plate. Seems as though when things ramp up along the west coast, we get that activity really ramping up as well inland into the interior part of the North American plate, which of course includes Yellowstone, right? A little bit of activity kicking off overnight in a pretty good swarm of a fashion. You can see that movement kicking up here. Looks like, make sure we got the right map. Yep, looks like even within the last few minutes. We got a little earthquake kicking off here at Yellowstone. So let's see what we got here. Looks like this is centered roughly around the northwestern corner of the park here. Maple Creek looks to be the key spot for the seismic activity. And it's nothing big. USGS showing some activity down south, but not the most recent activity. It looks like maybe one included in there, 1.9 at 0825 UTC time. So 0825 is going to be this earthquake right here. 0825 just before the 0830 mark. And they are calling that a 1.9. So obviously these other earthquakes are much smaller, but there's definitely quite a few of them. Looks like maybe another 1.9 coming in here, like I mentioned, within the past 10-20 minutes. And some smaller quakes, and there are a lot of microquakes kicking off. So no major significant swarming, just a little bit of amplification there of the microquakes. What else we got here into the center part of the country? Southern Plains, Northern Plains, Great Plains look quiet. Not a whole lot going on there yet. Like I say, we tend to see this little movement kick up once we start noticing a western part of the North American plate increase. You kind of see the activity work its way, so to speak, towards these regions of the Plains and Texas area. So I'm sure we'll see this fill in possibly by tonight. New Madrid zone looks pretty quiet, folks. Eastern part of the country quiet for now. Puerto Rico area, getting a little bit of swarming activity kicking up, but overall looks like that's dying down. We had seen a pretty good amount of activity up here around the Puerto Rico Trench within the last 7 days, but it looks like that's kind of calming down for now. So we'll see how that plays out. South America, a little bit of further movement into the Peru-Chile Trench with a couple forests down there, way deep into the subduction zone. Solar weather activity. Somebody mentioned on our solar weather update, we mentioned about the unexpected G1 storm, how it was predicted. Well, yes, obviously they were predicting one for tonight and on the 29th, but this one that had kicked up here on the 27th, that's going to be this red line, was not expected. And I think I clarified that on that update. Not only these folks mentioning it, but also the Space Weather and the Space Weather Prediction Center all agreed this was unexpected. So actually got quite a few comments saying that this was from the X-flare that kicked off a week ago, but no, it wasn't from the X-flare that kicked off. It just happened to be a tilt in the BT component up here, indicating a southward tilt here, which allowed solar wind stream to open up. Why it does that, who knows? It's got a lot to do with everything going on throughout the solar system, the sun, Earth's magnetic field in general. But that was around the 27th when that kicked up and allowed the G1 unexpected storm to kick in. Looks like tonight, yeah, and that X-flare that kicked off, when was that? When was that X-flare? Let's see if this will pick it up. 7 days. X-flare was 7 days ago, right? Remember that? Actually, it was further than that. Yeah, because those are only showing the M-class flares, but those X-flares were past the 7 day period. And if that X-flare had kicked off a CME directly at us, obviously it would be here within just a short couple days, as far as like the coronal mass ejection goes. But it doesn't take a week, 10 days to get here. That just doesn't happen. So just kind of clarifying a little bit on the space weather. I know a lot of people still just figuring that out, trying to learn the dynamics of how the sun works. I'm in that same phase. You know, I'm not saying I'm an expert on it, but definitely been watching this for many years and been studying it for many years. And I do know quite a bit out here to know that that was pretty much an unexpected event that occurred there with that G1 storm that kicked up. So, what else do we have here? let's go back to the solar weather page here, and as these guys are kind of forecasting, it looks like later tonight into tomorrow morning, G1 storm is expected, forecasted, I should say, forecasted, 50 to 60% higher latitude probabilities, with 15 to 25% at the mid latitudes. Right now, KP indexes look pretty clear, about 2. When that G1 storm kicks up, if it does kick up, it's expected to reach around the KP index of 5. Looks like it's, this is the current Aurora forecast model. Looks like we're getting a little amplification, so we'll see how that comes in tonight. Solar flare activity has been on the weak side. There is the culprit right here of our solar wind stream and our expected storms coming in the next couple nights from the coronal hole, which is amplified wind speed directly right at us. Sunspot activity is going away, and it's looking like it's a big mess, and it just needs to go away and hopefully reform. We'll see if we got any further sunspots around the bend here that will be giving us any hopefully some potential flare threat. But for now, looks like things kind of on the mellow side. These guys are forecasting a 99% chance of a C flare, 25% chance of an M flare with a 5% chance of an X flare, but we'll see how it goes. So, all right, guys, I'm going to jump off here, but like I said, I will be including these links about the ongoing earthquake activity in western Texas and how it's all linked. It's all linked, right? To the gas and oil field operations, injection well, pumping operations and whatnot there in the Delaware basin, and of course other basins across the Texas and Oklahoma region. It's worth the read, folks, if you got a chance. And I'll also include this link here that the what's his name, Alexandros, provided here in the email. It's pretty quick to reply. I emailed him yesterday, and kind of had a question about the specific fault systems and what he thought his thoughts were, but he only sent me this information back on it. So either way, I appreciate it. If they are watching, appreciate the quick reply. Have a good night, folks, or good day. It's not nighttime yet. Have a good day. We will be back a little bit later tonight with the update video. Stay safe, everyone.